Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of Wizland with Wiz. Happy to be with you guys today. Um, this podcast going forward is going to be strictly and more focused on football/soccer. It's going to be focused on not only analysis on games, analysis on certain players, but also on things. If you're a soccer player, if you're an aspiring professional footballer, if you're a head coach, this is what this podcast is going to be about. I'm going to share my opinions, share my thought process, share things that I've learned through my entire career as a footballer. And now that I'm currently a head coach, I'm trying to really dive into the game, learn all the tactics, learn certain things, try different things with my own team. And also in the process, I want to share the things that I've learned trying to become a pro athlete and not being able to do it, and the things that I've learned in all the years that I played football, and where I actually saw the pitfalls and all the things that I felt on, and how those things I kind of learned from to become a better soccer player. So if you have not subscribed, I would definitely advise you to subscribe, and I very am much thankful if you're watching this, and I hope that this really does help you. So today's episode, if you already read the title, is going to be more so towards coaches, and more so to beginning coaches, because this is not my first team that I've coached, but I did coach many years ago. This is a more kind of structure coaching that I've coach job that I've had, that I'm getting paid for, and that I'm actually responsible for more than just the aspect of playing soccer. So if you're a first year head coach, I'm pretty sure you're excited about becoming a head coach. I don't know how you got the opportunity to become a head coach. For me, I was able to go back to the school I graduated from. Luckily, I knew at the time that I got the job, my sister was attending the school. She told me about the position, and she did put in a word for me. And then I was able to go and interview, and luckily I was picked to become the head coach. On top of that, I kind of had a conversation with the captains at the time that were the seniors, and two of the seniors for that year. And luckily I was picked, and they liked me, and we kind of vibed a little bit. And at the end of the day, I ended up getting the job. And it was not easy, to be honest with you guys, coming from no background in coaching high school kids. It was a whole different experience. Prior to being a coach for high school, I had coached a younger version of kids. We're talking about 6 to 9 year old club, and I was able to get that opportunity based on knowing kids around that age with the school that I graduated from back in the day. But having said that, after that, I had never really coached. I only coached for a season, and that in itself was a lot of fun for me, and I learned a lot of things within that time frame that I had not thought about as a player. So one of the main things that I want you guys, if you're going to be a new coach, is to think yourself as a coach. You're no longer a player, but you're a coach. And I think that when you have played the game, the fact that you're not a coach, I will also advise you not to forget that you were once a player. Because I think one of the main issues that coaches have with kids is the fact that they, for whatever reason, they believe that they have to be authoritative. And I mean, you can have some rules. You have to have rules in order to have a good structure and a good team, and for the team to actually be able to respect you. But also in the same time, you have to relate yourself to these players. The only way that I find myself relatable to them is to actually understand how they work. Every player is different. You cannot say the same thing to everyone within the team, because not everyone is going to take what you said the same way. One of the main things that I implemented prior to kind of getting ready to go to the tryouts, the first time I went into the tryouts and went into my interview, is you have to be ready. And what I mean by that, you have to know how you want your team to play. Example, the formation that you're looking to put into the team, You also have to, if you can, you have to kind of learn prior to going into the interview, and prior to actually attending the tryouts and things of that nature. You have to know something about maybe the school, or maybe the team, or maybe the players. For me, I was lucky enough that this team actually has some footage of them on the internet, so I was able to kind of look at footage, look at film, and kind of already have some kind of sense. In a way, I already kind of knew some of the players before even getting to meet them in person. So I already knew what they usually play in the team. I already knew faces and names, and in that way, you're getting yourself prepared as much as possible prior to the first day of practice. For me, the way that we did it, I talked to the director of the school. We were able to set up a 3-day, it was a 2-day tryout, where about 60 kids came out. And one of the things that I did last year, I was just more so focused on the things that you cannot coach, things like speed, things like touch, things like communicating. Those things usually you cannot coach it, and some players already have it, like speed, like their touch. Yeah, you can coach the touch, but it's always good when you have a sound player with touch. Also, the fact that like certain players, their movement in the field, that is pretty hard to kind of coach, but some players already have that naturally. When you see a striker making the runs without being told anything, when you see a striker coming in and creating space for other strikers or wingers to actually be able to attack, those things you cannot coach. So for me, me playing the position that I played my entire career and basically my entire life, I've always played striker. So I already kind of had my eyes on trying to build the team from offense to defense, just because I was more adequate in kind of capturing and kind of already had in mind the style of play that I wanted to have for the team. So I was more focused on players that had speed and players that had movement on the field. So if I saw a player that had a lot of speed, that's the first thing that I take a look at, and then I have to see how good is their touch. Because sometimes when players are very much fast, they depend on their speed too much, so their touch is not as good. So that was one of the main things that I was looking at as a coach. So if you're a first year coach, before you go to the practice, before you go to the interview, already have in mind what is it that you're going to be focusing on your trials, or what is it that you're going to do to build your team. What style of play do you want to play? For me, it was I like the style of play of having 3 at top, 4 in the middle, and 3 defenses. I know that it was a very hard concept to kind of get that across with my players and the team, because they didn't think they were going to be able to perform in that particular formation, more so because they had never played that formation. They were used to playing a 3-3-4. And I'm being the person that I am, I really don't like the fact that I have to play 4 at the back, more so because I have to rely a lot on the left back and the right back, when I can actually just have midfielders that are very much attack oriented, and they already know they have to come back and defend, compared to somebody that, if I have wings, if I have defensive wings per se, they're going to be trying to go all the way up, and then they have to drop down, which is, if you take a look at it in the formation, if your left back and right back are not physically adequate to do that, it's going to really affect your team. So your defense is always going to be tired. So for me, I was more so focused on having a good center backs that actually knew the responsibility that they had to stay back, because we were only playing with 3 in the back. So that was pretty difficult to kind of get across. But the way I did this is I created an online video, a YouTube video. I made the video private, and then I sent it out to them at the beginning of the season, so they can actually understand what I was trying to implement with them and within the team. So the first thing for you coaches, have a formation, have a playing style that you want to implement, and share that with the director share that with your team first day of practice. Why? Because it's gonna make it very much easier for you to actually get that across in a timely manner to everyone. You have to start kind of sharing those thoughts at the beginning of the season so players can understand what you're trying to do with the team. If you don't do that, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually do it at the middle of the season. More so because your team is not going to know what they're doing. So for me, it's always about giving out the information as soon as possible because it also allows your players to get accustomed to the ideas that you're trying to teach them. Second, I really did a bad job with this, and more so because I didn't have any assistant coach with this. Planning out I did a bad job in a way because I wasn't like fulfilling what I planned for, because also my team, I had to work with players not being there and things of that nature because some players had to work, but also always have a plan A and a plan B for your practices. The reason being is because sometimes you are, if you're a high school coach or whatever type of coach you are, you're always going to encounter players that might not be there every day. And when you're missing more than 5 players, it does affect the practice. If you only have one plan for the practice, then you have to kind of improvise immediately, which is very difficult to do because now you're not focusing the practice within a actual purpose. You're just trying to have it practice so the kids are not just doing whatever. So I think that when you're changing your practices from improvisation to actually focused practice, it's going to change the entire dynamic of the team because you're going to also be able to keep track of your players' improvement throughout the season. And that's one of the main things that I know that I, for one, was already focused on. But my biggest issue was that I didn't take into effect the amount of players that I was going to be missing some of the days throughout the week. So you have to think about those things. As a coach, you have to be prepared, more prepared than the actual kids, because you are the adult. You are the leader. You are the one that is setting the example and the pace and the standard for the team. So it's on you to be there on time. It's on you to be prepared. So always have a plan B just in case your plan A doesn't go as you planned it. The third thing that I want to share with you guys is, since I already said have a plan of the formation and the playing style, is number 2. Learn how to communicate with your players. And that kind of goes back to the first point this is probably the most important thing that you have to, as a coach, understand. More so when you're dealing with teenagers that kind of, some of them are going to be pretty much thinking that they can do whatever they want. Some of them are going to they might not even like you, just not because they don't like you, just because they don't know you. So it's your duty to kind of put yourself in a position where they are aware that you are there to help them and to guide them to win. And that's all you can do as a coach. That's one of the main things that I had to keep reminding myself every time when I would have a player not listening to the training. That at the end of the day, it is a team sport, and that if those players do not want to take the information, it's gonna be, at the end of the day, it's gonna affect their game. If I decide at the end of the day if they're gonna play and if they're gonna actually be able to help the team. So that responsibility falls on me. But also in that sense, my responsibility is to tell each and every player that there is certain things that they have to follow within the team, which I did not do a good job of last year. And also I have to be able to relate that information to everyone on the team. So I think that once you actually get the job, you become the coach, you're going to be the coach. Your duty is to understand and kind of relate to each player in whatever way you can. For me, it was actually getting to talk to these players one-on-one, and not purposely doing it, meaning like, don't purposely be like, I need to talk to you one-on-one. No. Allow time to pass. Allow time to show up every time, show up every day, be willing to guide them, be willing to teach them. And throughout the season, they're going to start opening up a little bit with you. And that's what I've experienced. I've been able to talk to all my players. The seniors that left this past year, I was able to talk to them. I was pretty much interested in their lives outside of soccer, see what they had going on with school, see what they like, the things that they have going on, if they have a girlfriend, if they don't have a girlfriend, all these different things. As a coach, you have to understand that is a responsibility that you have to take on. And that was one of the main things that I told myself when I did take the job, that it's not going to be easy. It will not be easy because these are teenagers. And because they're teenagers, I was once a teenager as well, and I had to put myself in their shoes. I have to understand what I was going through at that same age, and what I wish I wanted on my coach. And that's what I'm doing here now. I'm making sure that I am allowing my players to be the best version of themselves, not only inside the field but outside the field. I'm there on time. I'm always there trying to help them, and I always tell them, it's an open door policy with me. If you guys want to do something in regards to your game, if you guys have questions about anything, if you guys are down to train outside of that, I'm always available, as long as they're able to put in the effort, as long as they want to put in the effort. So I think that is the main thing that you have to do. Be able to create a community and be able to create a communication with your players. If you don't do that, trust me, it's going to be pretty difficult. It's going to be pretty difficult for you to actually, as a first year coach, it's going to be pretty difficult for you to actually have any form of team building and chemistry. So that's the main thing that you have to think about. When you become a coach and being a first year coach, you're going to have to focus on the chemistry of the team. And that starts with you and your relationship with the players. I'm not saying you have to know everything about every single player on the team, but you have to put in that extra effort to understand what is going on with your team. You have to understand if they have any issues with school, if they're having any issues outside of the soccer field. And I think that is what's going to allow you to build that chemistry within the team. And trust me, it wasn't an easy ride for me last year, because while it was very fun, it was a very amazing experience. The first 2 games felt like shit. But I could tell the reason we lost those 2 games. Eventually, after those 2 games occur, something started changing. The players stopped kind of relying on the main players and allow themselves to become a team. And everything changed immediately after those 2 losses. So one of the main things that you have to understand is that your players are going to do whatever the hell they want. And knowing that, it's on you to actually create a culture within the team that everybody embraces themselves. One of the main things, and this falls all back into the creativity part of you becoming a coach, and you being able to kind of help the environment and build the environment for the team, is that you have to make them know that at the end of the day, this is a team. That you guys, for example, you have a team, they lose for, let's say they start losing the season, but it's on you as a coach to see what is it that they need help on. What is it that they need to improve on? What is it that these players need to work on? And I think that for me, after those 2 losses, I started focusing more so on building team chemistry on practice with certain drills that force them to start passing, creating passes with limited amount of touches, in limited amount of space. And I focused on that for a very long time. I focused on that for weeks and weeks until they eventually got it. And it was a point to where at first they couldn't even connect 10 passes within 2 touches. Eventually they were able to connect 15, eventually 20, and eventually became a rhythm thing. It became something that they will be able to do on themselves. I didn't even have to say it no more. I didn't even have to count out loud no more. So you have to understand that the position you're taking, you have to be open to every single player. And when you don't have an open door policy and you think that you're bigger than them just because they're kids, I think that kids do see that, and they are not going to respect you. And I think that that's a thin line also when it comes to you allowing them in, because sometimes I have had some encounters with some of these kids, because sometimes they might forget that, yeah, I'm cool with you, but you also have to respect me because I am the head coach. If I want you to play, you're going to play. If not, then you're not playing. It's as simple as that. So sometimes you are going to have to kind of show your authority in certain scenarios, but that doesn't mean that you always have to rely on authority. I think that the main thing that you can do as an example, as a head coach, is lead by example. If you want them to do something, be the first one to do it. If you want them to say something or act a particular way, be the first one to show them how to act. And I think that that's going to work out for you. Honestly, that's worked out for me, and I think that's one of the best tips and best kind of things that I can share with you guys if you're a first year coach. But yeah, I think that will end the podcast for today. I truly believe that these three things, if you focus on these three things, you will succeed as a coach. And sometimes it takes some time for you to actually start winning and seeing the results that you're putting in on practice. But as long as you focus on these three things, I do believe that you'll be in a place where you're gonna feel confident when you start interacting with these kids. And you can also do this with Little League. You don't have to just do this for high school or when you're dealing with men, because I think every as a coach, you kind of have to actually change your style of coaching depending on the team age. You can actually scream at a young kid because they might feel like crying and you might really hurt them emotionally. But you have to understand that every kid wants to be taught. They want to learn. And even the kids that they say they don't want to learn, they want to do whatever it is that they want to. Even the kids that don't show interest, that they think they can do whatever the hell they want, you have to analyze why they act the way they do. Sometimes they don't have a role model in their life. Sometimes they've never even had a real coach. And if you're trying to be a real coach, you have to understand all these dynamics about life. You have to understand that maybe these kids don't have a background of having a real coach that cares for them. And if you want to be that coach, and that's what I'm saying, this podcast is for people that really want to improve in their life. It's not just about football and soccer. This goes beyond the sport. If you want to become a better version of yourself, you have to care about everything that you're doing. The same way I'm talking about art, the same way that I'm talking about becoming a coach and being a coach, that's the same kind of love I have for my personal business, which is art. So you have to understand that all these things that you're doing in the field with kids, it has to be the same thing that you're doing in your real life, because this is real life. You being a leader, you being a role model, you being respected by these kids, you leading these kids to winning, they're going to love that, and they're creating memories for their lives. So that's what you're helping build. And that's one of the main reasons that I want to do this podcast, because I want you guys to understand that if you want to become a pro player, if you want to become a coach, if you're a coach and you're not doing this, people are not going to respect you. If you're just there just for a paycheck, then you're doing the wrong thing. If you're doing it for a paycheck, you're doing the wrong thing. Because this type of stuff is more so of being a leader, guiding kids. And just like a teacher, I truly believe that a teacher, like, they do get underpaid. And I always remember the good teachers that I had throughout my entire school years. And I truly believe that's the purpose of being a teacher, being a coach. You have to teach the kids how you will want your kid to be taught at school, or anywhere. You have to be able to teach them the right path, and guide them throughout this journey of like in this case, you have to guide your players in this journey of becoming better soccer players. So yeah, guys, I hope if you are a head coach, implement some of these things, and I wish you good luck on your new season. I'm very much getting ready. We are about a season. We're about a week away from this upcoming season, and I'm very excited about sharing the journey for season 2 of being a coach. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to Wizland. Peace.